Hi, and welcome everyone to this session of English 204. I'm so sorry about the background noise with cat meowing, and then my daughter making a lot of noise around here. We have a hungry cat that needs to be fed. It's a cat that decided to adopt us for the summer, and he's sticking around. Okay, so this week's session is on composing a literature review matrix and grid, and this is probably one of the most important things that you can learn in this course. And the reason it's one of the most important things that you can learn in this course is because you will be using this in a lot of courses that you will be taking at the university, especially if you are a science student. So what is a literature review and why do we write one? Well, I have explained this uh, in uh, in the literature review PDF that we got, and I just wanted to say that literature reviews are probably the most important part of our papers because they give a comprehensive summary of the research that has been done before we decided to embark upon this journey and decide to answer this research question that we thought of at the beginning of the semester or at any point in time. I usually like to talk about literature reviews and writing papers as if you guys are already, graduate students. You are doing research, because whether you are an undergraduate, whether you are a graduate student, whether you are a PhD student, whether you are a full professor, writing a literature review is an integral part of your research, whether you're in the humanities, whether you are in social science, maybe not humanities. Humanities, they do a different kind of literature review. But whether you are in the social sciences or any of the natural sciences, so you always, every time you write a paper, you need to write a literature review. What is a literature review? When I say the word literature, most people think of uh, short stories and novels and books, but this is not it. When I talk about literature, or when we talk about literature, we mean uh, all the research that preceded this research or our research. That is a lot of work. If you want to come to think of it, that is a lot of work. And why do we need to do it? We need to do it for several reasons. Number one, we need to show that we have done our research and that we know what we're talking about. Number two, we need to familiarize ourselves with the language that's being used in research. Number three, we need to join a conversation that already exists. So this conversation is still going on in academia and the academic world, and we need to be able to join this conversation. The only way to join this conversation is to actually know the conversation and what's going on. So by doing a literature review, you join the conversation, you learn the words of the conversation, etc. And most importantly is to not waste our time in uh, doing a research that has already been done. So you need to be able to tell, or you need to be able to know that this research has not been done before, and so there is this gap in the research that you need to fill. And of course, finally, we need to always stand on the shoulders of giants, the people who came before us, so that we're not repeating ourselves or repeating our work. So that's a lot of reasons why we do a literature review. One second. Recording. So as I was saying, those are very important reasons why we do a literature review and why we um, have to have this specific part in our research. Okay. Any questions so far before I proceed? No? Okay, great. So what is a literature review? Literature review is a synthesis of the sources that we are using in our research. We need to show what others have said about the topic that we are working on. Because it's such a tasking or such a difficult process, taxing, I'm sorry, not tasking, because it's such a taxing and difficult process to maintain uh, like maintain or keep track of everything that is out there in terms of research. The best approach is to actually develop a review matrix or a grid. uh, to develop a review matrix or a grid, what we need to do is uh, collect the articles first and start plugging them into this review matrix or grid. Uh, Let me open up 1 second. Okay, so this is for developing a synthesis matrix. What we do is we type over here the source, the first source, second source, third source, fourth source. I think for people who are working alone, oh, I'm sorry, I think the sharing is stopped. Let me share.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay, so when we are plugging in our sources here, you've already done the research. So what you need to do is type in the sources over here. So first source, and I suggest what you need to sort of get used to is plugging in your sources in such a way where um, it's okay, I'm still admitting people here. So like for example, here you can put Smith 2006, right? And this one here would be uh, a Hanauer and Englander 2013, right? So you can, or you can do Hanauer if you're going to be doing it APA and Englander 2013. And then you list all the sources up here, and then you start going through the source and plugging in the main ideas of the research. And where do you find these main ideas? Most of the time you can find them in the abstract, and most of the time you can find them in the discussion, like the results that they have come up with, etc., etc. Once you plug these in, so main idea A, B, C, D for each one, then you start matching whatever you see. Like for example, this idea A over here is similar to this one here, is similar to this one here, and so you can start comparing the different resources and what they say. You might be able to even contrast the different resources and what they say, and you can also critique the different resources and what they say. So this is the first step in developing your literature. For you to be able to keep track, it's best to use a matrix. It's really good to use a matrix if you have something around uh, like something like around 20, 25 sources, which is not required of you for this course. However, later on you might be working on certain projects with different professors, and they tell you need to write a literature review and you need to synthesize maybe 10 sources or 12 sources or 15 sources or 20 sources, so you can do that. I'm personally working right now on a literature review. I'm writing a literature review as the semester progresses. I started with that early September, and I'm still not done with it. But I am using, um, to be exact, I'm using 20 books and 88 articles. So 88 articles and 20 books have to be synthesized into a literature review. It's a huge project. It's a huge project, and mind you, this research, or this actual research area is only 15 years old. There are certain research areas that are way older, and so you find a lot more sources. The sources have to be recent, except when I'm talking about the history or background information about the research that I'm doing. So it's important to be able to keep track of everything. I'm not using a matrix, and the reason I'm not using a matrix is because it's very, very difficult to synthesize all that in on one sheet. I've done that for fewer sources, like 40. It worked really well. I've done it for 30. It worked really well. But when you have 20 books and 88 articles, it might get a little bit messy. What I'm doing is, after reading the literature the first time, I outlined, and now all I'm doing is just plugging in the outline itself, and it works fine for me so far. It works fine for me. I don't know what will happen in the future. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a second and ask you, do you have any questions before I continue?
Yes.
Professor?
Yes, I'm going to start with Carl.
So is this basically why we wrote the summary? So is the summary supposed to be like plugged into here, or do we have to reformulate it?
No, you can plug in whatever you want. Anything that you have done in the past, you plug in here. From the citations to the references to the summaries to the paraphrases, whatever you want, you can plug in here. From now on, everything is recyclable. Okay, Hamza, you had a question.
Yes, just to make sure, these rows we will be like comparing and contrasting like the main idea or argument in each and every.
No.
Okay.
You're going to be looking at a source. You've already read the source. You're going to come here and list the main ideas of the source. Idea 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it vertically, you can do it horizontally. It depends. It's up to you. You do that for the second source, you do that for the third source, you do that for the fourth source, and see where they intersect. This source talked about this source also talked about this. Color code them. Say, for example, the similarities are colored in green, the differences are colored in red. They might not have any similarities, but they might use similar methodologies, like the way they collected their data is very similar. Okay? Questions?
It makes sense now.
Yes, Emma.
Where we put the source, we only put the name of the writer, the family name.
Here?
We don't put
yeah.
the
This is what I want you to get used to. It becomes really, really easier whenever you get used to this this method. You always save your articles by putting the author's last name and the year. If you have more than two authors, put, for example, Hanauer, et al., and then the year. Okay? So I'm going to put here, I'm going to put Lillis. This is one of the authors I'm working with, et al., and then I'll put 2019, right? And here we'll put, I know a person called Flower Dew, and he just published an article, so it's 2020, and then you can do that. So whenever you're saving an article, whenever you're saving a PDF, save it like that or save it like that, like Smith 2006, right? So what happens is it makes it easier for you. What I usually do in my matrices is that I put the source and I put the citation next to it. So I can, when I'm doing the reference list, I can always just copy paste there. There are so many different softwares that you can use to keep track of your sources. Like Mendeley is really good. I recommend it, and it's for free. We at the university use EndNote, but EndNote is very problematic. You can always use Zotero. Okay, so let me write these names here. Mendeley, I think is spelled Mendeley that way. You have Zotero, and you have EndNote. EndNote is paid, but it's paid for by the university. Zotero, I think, is for free, and Mendeley is for free. And both Zotero and Mendeley are also have the online option, so that you can synchronize. So you can create an account and you can synchronize your sources across devices. What happens is when you plug it into Word, like for example here, Zotero is plugged in, EndNote is plugged in. Do you see where my mouse is? So if I have plugged in, I can add a citation, or for EndNote, I can, oh, it's gonna give me such a hard time now. Ya Allah, I wish I hadn't just clicked on this. Shut up, EndNote. Yeah. Why did I do that? Okay, Allah, whatever. It's not gonna accept. Okay, forget about it. Oh, now it's not gonna allow me to anything else. Okay. Any questions in the meantime? Let me just figure out how to fix this. In the meantime, any questions? Okay, continuing. So after we do that, you've already begun working towards your literature review by doing the research, summarizing, paraphrasing sources. You will now attempt to bring these sources together by writing a literature review. Literature review, by the way, just for your information, can stand alone as a piece of writing, or it can be part of the research paper. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be submitting the first part ASAP, and then the second part ASAP. So hopefully by Sunday, you will be able to give me at least the grid, and then by next week, you'll be able to write the literature review. I will provide you with a spot for the grid, and the literature review will be submitted over here. So what is a literature review? So you're going to be submitting a literature review of 3 sources. Remember, you're not responsible for more than 3 sources if you are working alone. If you're a team of 2, you submit 5 sources. If you're a team of 3, you submit 7 sources. What I want you to do is cite, compare, contrast, and then critique, connect. Yes, sorry. Zohair, you were saying something? Hello? Okay. So how are you going to be writing that? First of all, when you are writing a literature review, you're going to be citing the sources in the form of an in-text citation with a tagline and parenthetical reference information. I'm going to show you a student sample in a second, so you know what I'm talking about. Then you're going to be comparing the various arguments, theories, methodologies, maybe findings expressed in each source. What do the authors agree on? Who applies similar approaches to analyzing the research problems, etc. Then you're contrasting the various arguments before you critique and you connect your literature. it's not as hard as it seems, as I will show you in the sample in a second. However, this is a very important part of your research paper. Now, you might be wondering, how is this related to my outline? Well, it's going to be plugged into your paper, meaning after your introduction, there comes something called background information, and then after the background information, there will be something called literature review. The reason it was not mentioned in the outline before is because I didn't want to freak you out, you guys, like you've probably never heard of that. Okay, I'm going to be sharing something that
Professor,
yes, that I
sorry,
received from
I was
students.
disconnected from 2 minutes ago. May you repeat what did you say, please, about the submission, first submission and second submission?
We'll talk about this in a second,
And
Zohair,
when is it
or
due to?
yeah, the first submission, which is the grid, will be this Sunday, because it's just basically repeating whatever you have, just plugging them into the
Okay.
grid. And then the second one, my Word document is not opening for some reason. It's all because of this stupid EndNote. Okay, 1 second. The second one, the actual thing, will be due next week. Okay.
May I add more resources on my old resources, as I mentioned before?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
May I add more resources on my topic?
Yes,
on my
you may.
article?
You may, not for the, not too many for the literature review.
Okay.
So
Okay.
because you don't want to overdo it.
Okay, deal.
Can you see this one over here that it says screening the unscreened? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So a literature review, look at that. A literature review can look like a paper. Those guys, they're 3 students. They overdid it a little bit with the. I mean, they did use just 4 sources, or did they use 5? No, they used more sources than 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, because they were 3. So this is how they did it. They wrote. There, you have the cover page, and then they did the this one over here. I'm thinking right now, maybe you do not submit it, like maybe I'll give you until next Friday, not this Friday, not tomorrow, next Friday, for you to finish the whole thing and submit it all at once. You don't have to submit it in 2 parts. It's better if you start working on it right away. So here they put the sources, they didn't put the years. However, they plugged in the main ideas of the sources. And then they began the literature review. And look how they cited everything. Like, for example, this is one citation. They have a mistake over here because, oops, this needs to be an ampersand, not a, but I left everything as is, because see here, he did it correctly. Over here, it's a mistake. Anyway, so this is how you do an in-text citation. Okay, and over here, they forgot the year, because this is sorry, not the year, the page number, because over here, this is a quote, so they should have here a page number. Okay, now this is what I mean by citing. You first cite. So this is how you cite. You're saying, according to this author, or what this author has said. So it's somehow integrating. And then they also compare, and then they contrast, and then they critique. And it's all done in 1, 2 pages. So this is it for the 7 sources. Look how they did it. They said, many studies support the claim that medical students experience several psychological challenges throughout their pre-medical and medical school experience. However, the reasons behind these challenges have not yet been fully explored or established. So they're just giving a general introduction to the research. It is quite common for researchers to attribute these mental problems to various stressors such as burnout, academic pressure, social alienation, which may contribute to the onset of depression and suicidal ideation. Yet, other literature sheds light on coping skills and individual differences. So basically, they have introduced the literature. And then here they start with talking about what the literature says by citing it and comparing it. Burnout, depression, and mental illness are more prevalent in medical students than in the average person due to the role of stigma in discouraging medical students from seeking help, etc., etc. And then they cite. Similarly, a study showed that half of the medical students, so here they're listing all the research, and then what they do is they compared them within the same paragraph, they compared them. And then over here, they critiqued and connected. Despite listing high rates of burnout, depression, and suicidal ideation, etc., Salvin and Chibnall did not attribute socioeconomic and demographic backgrounds as contributing factors, etc., etc. So if you look at it all in all, it's just 1-2 pages, right? But because they have done the grid, it becomes easier to see where do they intersect and where do they not. Over here, they decided actually to do the common ideas, etc., etc. And then at the end, what they did was they referenced the sources. I think they just worked that semester on only 4. I don't know why. I remember always assigning 7 for 3 students. Okay. Any questions about this?
We have to cite the paraphrasing, right? I guess they did so.
Anything that you paraphrase, you summarize, or you quote, you have to cite. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let me share back the screen of my course. So the first 3 steps can be done simultaneously, where the resources are cited as they are compared and contrasted. And then as you critique the literature, which arguments are persuasive and why, which approaches finding methodologies seem more reliable, valid, appropriate, pay attention to the verbs you use to describe what an author says. You have to put it in the past tense, and you have to say, for example, asserted, demonstrated, argued, etc. And then you connect the literature to your own area of research and investigation. How does your work draw upon, depart from, or synthesize what has been said in the literature? And, it just follows certain standard submissions for this class name, of course, my name, etc. And you upload it as a Word document. Okay. So if you have any questions, let me know. Oh, you can't see my share. How come you can't see my share? Yeah. What is going on
I
today?
can see the download.
That is so weird. Okay, now you can see my share. So I was reading this part over here. Questions? I'm very technologically challenged today for some reason, messing things up. If you don't have any questions, let me tell you a little bit about literature reviews and their importance in for your work and for your future work, especially if you are a pre-med student or you're a science student. literature reviews are probably the most challenging to write. Okay, methodologies easy. Of course, research design is not very easy to make, but methodologies are easier because they are very straightforward to the point. Literature review is difficult because it's challenging. It requires certain skill of critical thinking, and it requires a lot of thought in a sense, right? However, the matrix makes it a lot easier in the sense that once you put it all in there, you plug it in, it becomes easier to see what parts align, what is different, what works, what doesn't work, etc., etc. The other good thing about the literature review is that whatever you use in the literature review, you can always use to support your arguments and claims later on. Okay, so it's used in two places. It's used after the background information, there comes the literature review, and it's also used in the arguments themselves. Questions?
Professor,
Yes, Celine.
can you just say when the due is again? Because my laptop disconnected when you were saying.
Can I say what? When it's due? I was thinking of dividing
Yeah.
it up for you into slots, but I think I will just wait until to receive it from you by next Thursday. So for next Thursday, you will not have. I will not. I will cancel the synchronous session. We'll just talk a little bit about the position paper, which is due in 2 weeks. And then, so I will have it due on Thursday. So instead of a synchronous session with me, we will have the literature review due.
Professor,
Yes.
can we not have it on Thursday the 12th because we have an exam? Like personally, I have an exam.
So if you don't submit it on Thursday, the 12th, when will you submit it? Wednesday,
No.
the 11th?
لا أنا بلكي Friday مثلا.
Friday the
at
13th?
least.
Seriously? You really want Friday the 13th to be your deadline?
إنه إذا مش إنه إذا أكيد فينا بعد إنه أوكي fine مثلا Sunday بس إنه إذا you need it as soon as possible.
The more time you take to submit your literature review, the less time you will have for the position paper.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I can do it Sunday, the regular time, like Sunday at 6. Next Sunday at 6. But you know, it's up to you. Do you want that?
No, I don't mind يعني بس إنه ما
Do you
نكون
want to
on
take a
Thursday
vote?
يعني
Can you vote in the chat?
okay.
Just to be clear, like we'll have for next Thursday the submission of the literature review, and then for the next week we'll have the position paper.
No.
Sunday of next week.
No. You will have the position paper is due week 12, which is 24th, 26th. And then you will submit, and then you will conference with me. So I will have these conference times open for you, and then you can pick a slot and meet with me. So that would be, so the position paper will be for the week of week 12, but early week 12. Meaning we start with Monday, November 23rd. And then after this, we will just do the final paper plus progress discussion, because after you finish your position paper, you're ready to submit. You just do the corrections I tell you about, and then you submit your final paper. The final paper is due week 13, December 1. Okay?
So we'll have an extra week for the position paper.
You will have a week, an extra week for the position paper. لحظة. If it's due next Sunday, which would be which day? I don't have a calendar.
November 21st, you mean?
لا.
Sorry, 22nd.
It'll be November 26th.
14 November is next
لا.
Sunday.
Next week is next week would be November 14. If you submit it November 14 and
15 on Sunday.
Saturday's
طيب
14.
okay 15 on Sunday, 15 till the from the 15th to the 23rd will be like 8 days.
Yes.
So that's why I'm trying to push you to finish the literature review so you have more time for the research paper.
Yeah.
Which one will take you more to write? I think the position paper, it depends on your outlines. If your outlines are solid, then your research paper will the position paper will not be very difficult to write. Okay, when do you want the deadline? Friday?
Friday is good, I think.
Friday is fine?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Celine, you said thumbs up?
I don't mind either.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So Friday will be fine. Are you okay? So you're all okay with Friday? Celine?
Yes.
Okay. Aisha, Sunday would be better. I know Sunday would be better for everyone, but the problem is you also need time for the position paper as well. So I'm trying to divide the time up equally between the two. From Thursday to Friday would be 8 days. From Friday to or from Saturday, Sunday, and then a week would be 10 days, which I think is fine. هلا إذا كتير عسرت معكم let me know. But they're just 3 sources, you guys. If you're 1 person, and 5 sources if you're 2 people. It's not a big deal. Like, it's not that, like, honestly, you can finish it in 2-3 hours. It's not a big deal, but I'm giving you time because I know you have other things to do and other things to worry about. Okay?
Professor,
Yes?
so we would have finished everything for this course by December 1.
Yes.
Also, we'll have for the midterms, for the finals, I mean, we won't have anything or assignment or something.
I don't do that. I don't mess up my students. I make them finish everything before.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, I know, isn't it? Like, so awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the heart, Hamza. Yes, I don't think it's fair for students. I think it's best if you finish everything by last day of classes. And yeah, if you still have anything to just edit, fix, or to do, then it's different. But we try to finish everything by last day of classes so that you have your time for other things, for the other courses. Right? Okay, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to stop the recording right now.